have a contract with an ice-cold female CEO. I provide her with quality genes. She pays me $5 million. Once the baby is born, we're even, and I walk away. But what I didn't expect was that I was a little too talented. She ended up pregnant with twins. While everyone outside the delivery room was running around in chaos, I grabbed the younger twin, the one with the weaker cry, and ran off with the money. For 6 years I raised chickens, grew vegetables out in the countryside, and raised my son just fine. Then one day I drove my three-wheeler into town with my son to sell vegetables, and a luxury car pulled up right in front of me. Out stepped a little boy in a suit and tie. He looked exactly like my son. My son said, "Dad, when did you go behind my back and have a kid in the city?" My son Giaminho delivered that line with the full force of his lungs and zero shame. At this time, every auntie and uncle at the vegetable market snapped their heads toward me at once. I was done for. My head went blank, and the cabbage I was about to sell nearly slipped out of my hands. Cold sweat ran down my temple. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that 6 years of peaceful country life would end like this. The little boy who stepped out of the luxury car was wearing a tiny suit and a little bow tie. He looked every bit the bossy little CEO type. He was studying us with the same shock as my son, but with an extra layer of scrutiny and curiosity. Then behind him, the car door opened again. A long leg and black stocking stepped out first. Then came the face burned into my DNA, the one that jolts me awake from nightmares. Shinbing. 6 years, and she hadn't changed one bit. Face like frost, eyes cold enough to kill. The only difference was that, at this moment, a faint trace of something unusual appeared on her perpetually unchanging ice-cold face. Her gaze landed first on Giaminho's little face, smudged with dirt but the spitting image of mine. Then it slowly drifted to the boy in the tiny suit. Two identical boys. One in patched jeans, wild as a mud monkey. The other in a tailored little suit, clean as a prince. The air went still. My heart rate shot to about 180. "Dad, say something. Do you have another family in the city? What about me and Wang Dawa back home?" He said, "Stop making things up. Wang Dawa is the village chief's dog." I slapped my hand over Giaminho's mouth, just in case he spouted nonsense again. I forced out a smile that looked worse than crying and said, "Kids say the darndest things." "Ha, kids say the darndest things. Don't take it to heart." Shinbing ignored me. Her gaze was like two sharp scalpels, slowly dissecting every inch of me and Giaminho, and the two men in black behind her were already closing in on us without a sound. Run. That was the only thought in my head, so I slammed down the throttle on my three-wheeler. The vehicle that had been with me for 6 years let out a series of rattles sounding like it might fall apart at any moment. It lurched forward, me and a full load of vegetables shooting into the market. Shinbing's cold voice rang out behind me. "Stop him! Don't let him get away! Otherwise you're going to be in for a world of trouble." I used to be a self-proclaimed king of the road back in the day. I pushed the throttle all the way. The three-wheeler tore through the narrow aisles of the market like a maniac. I knocked over 2 fruit stalls and flattened a whole pile of tomatoes. The shouting of the aunties and uncles blended with the pounding footsteps of the bodyguards chasing behind. "Dad, you're so cool, it's like a movie!" Giaminho screamed with excitement in my arms. It was as if he didn't know we were in danger. I said, "Cool nothing, we're running for our lives." But my three-wheeler was never going to be fast enough. The moment I cleared the market, a black luxury car cut across and blocked my path completely. There was nowhere to go. 2 bodyguards grabbed me from either side and lifted me off the vehicle like I weighed nothing. I was pinned against the hood of the car, my cheek pressed against the cold paint. Giaminho was scooped up by another bodyguard, but he wasn't scared at all. He was making faces at the boy in the little suit. The boy in the suit just stared blankly. Shinbing clicked toward me in her heels, one deliberate step at a time. "Jae-woo," she said my name. Quiet, but it made my whole body flinch. "Long time no see." I forced my head up and stretched out my most charming smile. "Miss Shin, what a coincidence. Here to buy vegetables too?" The corner of Shinbing's mouth twitched. She didn't answer. Instead, she crouched down to look at Giaminho in the bodyguard's arms. She reached out as if to touch his cheek. Seeing this, Giaminho pulled his neck back and stared at her suspiciously. "Who are you? Don't even think about being my stepmom." "My dad belongs to Wang Dawa." I said for the last time, "Wang Dawa is a dog." Shinbing's hand froze in midair. She took a slow breath and stood up. Her eyes landed back on me with a look that could kill. 6 years ago, I gave birth to twins. Correct? Shinbing's voice was calm, but underneath that calm was a volcano ready to erupt. I felt the bodyguard's grip on my shoulders tighten. "Admit it and I'm dead. Deny it and I'm dead. Better to say nothing." So my eyes darted around, and I quickly swapped to my most shocked and innocent expression. "Twins? Miss Shin, I have no idea what you're talking about." I pointed at Giaminho, as sincere as I could manage. "This is my nephew. My brother and sister-in-law died in a car accident. I raised him all by myself. It wasn't easy. I even tried to squeeze out a couple of tears to sell the lie. Look how much he looks like me. They always say nephews take after their uncles. That is absolutely right." Before I could finish, Giaminho cut in with a frown. "Dad, what are you talking about? Since when do you have a brother? My grandparents have been gone for ages, do you forget?" I stared at my traitor of a son and had absolutely nothing to say. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. "This is Shinjae's birth certificate and the hospital records from that time." Her eyes locked onto mine without blinking. "The records show that the male infant in incubator B disappeared 3 hours after birth." My chest tightened. Sloppy. I was so focused on running that I forgot to destroy the evidence. A coincidence. It had to be a coincidence. Shinbing was done talking. She turned to her bodyguards. Take him back to Cloud Summit Estate and contact our lawyer. I want a paternity test immediately. The bodyguard said, Yes, Miss Shin. And just like that, I was hauled up by 2 bodyguards and stuffed into the back of the luxury car like a criminal. GM Minho was carried in too. He wasn't scared at all. He was already running his hands all over the leather seats. Dad, this is way more comfortable than your 3-wheeler. Just not as fast though. What good is being fast? They caught up with us anyway. The convoy headed straight for an elite residential area on the edge of the city, Cloud Summit Estate. Just the name told you everything you needed to know about the price tag. A moment later, the car stopped in front of a villa that looked like a castle. Jae Minho and I were ushered into the living room. It was big enough to hold a track meet. The crystal chandelier on the ceiling made my head spin. Jae Minho had never seen a house turn out this luxurious. He walked in and immediately lost his mind, rolling across the carpet over and over. Shinbing sat on the sofa at the head of the room. The little boy called Shinjae sat quietly beside her. He was holding a tablet, but his eyes kept drifting toward Jae Minho, who was currently on the floor barking like a dog, born of the same mother. The contrast could not have been more extreme. Shinbing finally spoke. Jae-woo, I'll give you one chance, pay back the 5 million from 6 years ago, leave the child here and you're free to go. My stomach dropped. That 5 million had gone into building a house in the countryside, buying land, raising chickens. It had also been our living expenses for 6 years. There was barely anything left. But more than the money, she was asking me to leave Jae Minho behind. How was I supposed to accept that? I looked at my son tearing across the carpet, laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. He was the one I had raised for 6 years with everything I had. I took a deep breath and looked Shinbing directly in the eyes for the first time. Miss Shin, I can find a way to repay the money, but Jae Minho is my son. I can't give him to you. Your son? Like just said the funniest thing she had ever heard. Don't forget our contract. You were nothing more than a gene donor. I stiffened my neck and shot back. The contract doesn't say what to do if you have twins. And that baby was so weak when he was born. Even the doctor said he might not make it. I was the one who took him back to the countryside and fed him rice porridge, spoonful by spoonful, using old home remedies until he pulled through. That was the truth. She had delivered early. Jae Minho was tiny and thin, and his cry was barely louder than a kitten's. I ran with him partly for the money, and partly because I was afraid this ice-cold woman would genuinely neglect him. Hearing this, something shifted in Shinbing's expression, but it froze over again almost immediately. I don't care about the process, I care about results. And the result is that you stole my money and stole my son. She stood up. She looked down at me. Neither of you is going anywhere until the test results come back. Otherwise, I'll show you what real despair looks like. On the first day of being held in the castle, I got my first taste of what rich people call a boring life. Shinbing had a guest room prepared for me and Jae Minho. The guest room was bigger than my entire home back in the countryside. It had its own bathroom and a walk-in wardrobe, and a terrace overlooking the entire golf course. Jae Minho was beside himself with joy, bouncing back and forth across the king-size bed. He was using the very expensive duvet as a trampoline. He said, "Are we living here from now on? If so, that would be fantastic. This is way bigger than old Wang's pigsty." I was speechless. Could he please find a better comparison? I wasn't nearly as cheerful as he was. I tried the door. It didn't budge. 2 men in black stood outside like a pair of stone guardians. The windows had restrictors fitted. They opened just a crack. Shinbing had actually locked me up like a criminal. Time passed, minute by minute, second by second. Lunchtime arrived. A maid came to take us to the dining room. The long dining table was covered in elegant dishes. Western food, Chinese food, Japanese food, everything you could want. Shinbing sat at the head of the table. Shinjae sat to her left, quietly and neatly cutting his steak with a knife and fork. Jae Minho and I were seated across from them. Jae Minho had never seen anything like this. He grabbed a whole Australian lobster and tried to shove it into his mouth. I stopped him immediately. "Put it down. Gnawing at it with your bare hands is embarrassing." As I said it, I picked up the proper utensils and started shelling the lobster for him. I placed the meat in his bowl. Jae Minho gave me a sweet smile. "Thank you, Dad." He picked up his fork, speared a piece of lobster but didn't eat it. Instead, he held it up to my mouth. "Dad eats first." My heart warmed. This kid was too sensible. I opened my mouth and ate it. Across the table, Shinbing's hands paused on her knife and fork. She watched our exchange with an unreadable expression. Shinjae beside her had also stopped eating. He was watching us in silence. Shinbing cleared her throat and broke the silence, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Jae Minho, starting today you will learn proper manners. No shouting at the table. No eating with your hands. You will learn to use a knife and fork. Understood?" Jae Minho asked through a mouthful of lobster. "What are manners? Can you eat them?" Shinbing's brow tightened and said, "Shinjae, show him." Shinjae set down his utensils, picked up a fresh set and handed them to Jae Minho with a quiet voice. "You hold them like this." Jae Minho tried to copy him. However, with a loud clatter, the fork hit the floor. Jae Minho bent down to pick it up and smacked his head straight into the table leg. He yelped, and the whole dining room erupted into chaos. I watched the frazzled maid, then glanced at Shinbing's expression getting darker by the second, and felt a quiet, guilty satisfaction. Serves you right for looking down on country folk. My son alone can bring your whole castle down. A moment later, we somehow made it through the meal. Shinbing called Shinjae over and handed him an armful of toys that looked wildly expensive. "Take your brother to the toy room." Then she looked coldly at Jae Minho. "All of those are yours. Take whatever you like." She was trying to bribe my son with toys. Alarm bells rang inside me. She wanted to corrupt my pure-hearted boy with money. Not a chance. Then the two identical little boys stood together properly for the first time. Shinjae held a transformer toy. Looking a little uncertain, Jia Minho circled around him once, then reached out and started feeling his clothes. The fabric of your clothes is really nice. Way softer than my dad's undershirts. Shinjae's face went pink. It's silk, he said quietly. Jia Minho grabbed Shinjae by the hand. I know somewhere fun. Come on, keep up. Jia Minho dragged Shinjae all the way to a large tree in the back garden. Watch this. Jia Minho rolled up his sleeves, spat into both palms and rubbed them together, then scrambled up the tree with no effort at all. He settled himself on a branch and looked down at a wide-eyed Shinjae. Come up. The view is great up here. Shinjae craned his neck upward, longing and scared at the same time. I've never climbed a tree. I don't know how. Nothing to be scared of, I'll teach you. Hands here, feet there. That's it, exactly like that. With Jia Minho cheering him on, Shinjae actually began climbing, clumsy but determined. I leaned against the tree and watched, feeling a complicated mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Then Shinbing's voice came from behind me. Jaiwoo, what kind of future do you think this approach to raising a child is going to give him? I turned around. She was standing there, a faint look of mockery on her face. Are you training him to raid bird nests for a living? Or hunt in the mountains? I smiled and pointed at the small figure struggling upward on the tree. Miss Shin, I can't give him a billion-dollar inheritance, but I can give him a happy childhood. I don't expect him to become some kind of master. As long as he's happy, that's all that matters. And look, your son seems pretty happy too right now. He's probably never been this happy before. Shinbing followed my gesture. With Jae Minho's help, Shinjae had finally made it onto a lower branch. He gripped the trunk with nervous hands, but his face was lit up with a joy that looked completely new to him. The two boys sat side by side on the branch, Jae Minho pointing into the distance and telling Shinjae about his legendary reign over the village. Something flickered in Shinbing's eyes. She went quiet. Then suddenly a sharp crack. The branch Shinjae was sitting on gave way under the weight. He screamed and his body tilted sideways. He was falling. Shinbing let out a cry of terror. Her face went white. My heart shot into my throat. What kind of weak tree is this? Jae Minho reacted instantly. He lunged like a little monkey, wrapped both arms around Shinjae's waist. Don't be scared. Hold on to me. Jae Minho used every bit of strength he had to pull Shinjae back from the fall, but the momentum carried them both off the branch anyway. Fortunately, the branch was low. They landed in the thick grass and rolled over each other in a heap. Shinbing and I both rushed over. She grabbed Shinjae and held him tight. Are you alright? Do you get injured in the fall? She checked him over from head to toe, her eyes going red. I quickly helped my son up. Jae Minho said, Dad, my butt split into 8 pieces. But he immediately turned to look at Shinjae. Hey little suit, you okay? Shinjae, still shaken, shook his head. Then he looked at Jia Minho and said quietly, thank you. Otherwise I definitely would have taken a nasty fall. It was the first time he had spoken to Jia Minho on his own. Shinbing finished her check and found that Shinjae had only scraped his elbow. She let out a slow breath, but she immediately turned her anger on me. Jaewoo, this is what you call a happy childhood? Letting him drag my son into something this dangerous? If anything had happened to my son today, I would make sure you spent the rest of your life in prison. This woman was completely unreasonable. I hadn't even opened my mouth yet, when Jia Minho stepped forward with a scowl. It has nothing to do with my dad, it was me who wanted to take him climbing a tree. A real man doesn't cry over a little fall. Look, I fall down every day and I'm fine. He puffed out his little chest and planted himself in front of me, like a tiny rooster protecting a hen, and I saved him. You should be thanking me. Hearing this, Shinbing was stopped cold. She stared at this boy who looked exactly like her son, but carried himself like a little street brawler. For once, she had nothing to say. Mom, it's not his fault. I wanted to climb it myself. Shinbing's face cycled through several shades. She had probably never been betrayed by 2 sons at the same time before. She let out a cold huff, picked up Shinjae, and walked back inside without looking back. I crouched down and ruffled Jia Minho's hair. That was pretty brave of you just now. You actually managed to protect me. Jia Minho lifted his chin with pride. Of course. I'm your son. Brave is what I do. On the surface, it looked like I had come out the loser in this round, but I knew I had planted a seed in both boys' hearts. That evening, Shinbing tried to even the score with a financial offensive. She had the maid carry an entire room's worth of toys into Jae Minho's guest room. Remote control racing cars, Lego castles, limited edition figures, piled up like a small mountain. These are all for you. Shinbing stood in the doorway, expression as cold as ever. Be good, and there will be even more. Here it comes. Capitalist corruption, right on schedule. I watched Jia Minho nervously. He dug through the mountain of toys for a good while. Then he picked up the cheapest plastic water gun in the pile and looked at me hopefully. Dad, I like this. Can I play with this one? I smiled and nodded. Of course. He immediately started happily firing at the ceiling. When he got tired of that, he came and tugged at me. Dad, tell me a story. Tell me how you chased the wild boar out of the village. I never chased any wild boar. The boar chased me for 3 kilometers. I cleared my throat and launched into a vivid, completely made-up version of events. Jia Minho listened with total delight and quickly fell asleep in my arms. I held him and carefully laid him down on the bed. When I turned around, Shinbing was still standing in the doorway. Her eyes moved over the expensive toys that Jia Minho had abandoned without a second thought. Then she looked at the boy sleeping soundly in my arms, and her expression held a depth of feeling I couldn't read. I walked over to her and lowered my voice. Mishin, you see that? There are some things money can't buy, like a father's love, so don't always try to buy us off with money. I deliberately puffed up my chest, trying to reclaim some dignity. Shinbing was silent for a long time. I thought she was going to call the bodyguards and have me thrown out angrily. Instead, she just said, "Tomorrow the paternity test samples go in for analysis. You had better hope he turns out not to be my son." Having said that, she turned and left. Watching her solitary figure walk away, my little moment of triumph quietly faded. This woman was maybe not as terrible as I thought, but that thought lasted exactly 3 seconds, because I suddenly remembered that Jia Minho was 100% her son. The moment those results came back, I was finished. I couldn't just sit there and wait to die. I have to do something. Early the next morning, the family doctor arrived with a full kit of equipment. Jaeminho, Shinjae, and I sat in a row on the sofa waiting to have our blood drawn. Shinjae was clearly used to this. He wasn't afraid in the slightest. He extended his arm without any expression. Jaeminho had never had blood drawn in his life. His face went white. He clung to my neck with everything he had. "Dad, I don't want a needle. Needles kill people. I don't want to die." I said, "Don't be scared. It feels exactly like a mosquito bite. It doesn't hurt." "Really? Really?" While I soothed him, my mind was racing. I had to find a way to tamper with the sample. My eyes landed on the collection tubes on the table. The doctor drew blood from Shinjae first and stuck on his label. Then it was Jaeminho's turn. He wailed like the world was ending, squirming in my arms. "No needle! No needle!" The doctor and 2 maids all crowded around. The room descended into complete chaos. My chance. While every pair of eyes was on Jaeminho, I quietly reached out and dragged my fingernail hard across my own arm. That genuinely hurt. The moment the doctor put the needle in Jaeminho, I leaned in as if to comfort him and slipped my hand under his arm. A single drop of my blood fell silently into the tube, labeled with Jaeminho's name. Having finished all this, I let out a long, quiet breath. As long as the test results confirmed that Jaeminho and Shinbing are not blood relatives, she would have no reason to keep me and Jaeminho here. I'm so smart, I'm practically a genius. After the blood was drawn, the doctor also took cheek swab samples from all 3 of us. "A double check," he said. "Sloppy." My stomach dropped again. I stared at those sealed sample bags and felt like I wasn't looking at samples. I was looking at my death warrant. That afternoon, Shinbing had to go to the office for a meeting. Before she left, she specifically called me and Jaeminho over. "Shinjae's piano teacher is coming for a lesson today. Jaeminho, behave yourself. Do not disturb them." Then she gave me a sharp look and said, "And if you can't keep him in line, I'll do it for you." She was threatening me. I don't scare easily. After Shinbing left, a middle-aged man walked in wearing a tailcoat, his hair slicked back to a high shine. He was Shinjae's piano teacher, apparently some internationally renowned master. The master settled himself at a grand piano that looked like it cost a fortune. Shinjae sat dutifully beside him. A rich melody filled the room. Jaeminho crept over with wide eyes, leaned on the piano and stared. "This thing sings by itself?" The master frowned slightly, but maintained his composure and ignored Jaeminho. When the piece ended, the master began correcting Shinjae's technique. "Wrong. This passage should be powerful and passionate. Not this limp, lifeless thing you're doing. Wrists up. How many times do I have to say it? Are you a pig? You can't even remember a score this simple?" The master's manner grew worse and his voice grew louder, cursing without a shred of dignity. Shinjae sat with his head bowed, face burning red, eyes full of tears. But he didn't dare let them fall. I was furious just watching. What kind of master was this? Was he teaching a student or training a dog? Jaeminho had seen enough too. He marched over to the piano and slammed down on the keys with a crash that startled everyone in the room. Jaeminho jabbed a finger at the master and shouted, "Don't you dare talk to him like that. You're the pig. Your whole family are pigs. You rude little brat, do you know who I am?" The master's face went purple with rage. He shot to his feet. Jaeminho put his hands on his hips. "I don't care who you are. Say one more nasty thing to him and I'll pee on your piano." I hid a smile. My son did not mess around. The master was shaking with fury. He pointed at me. "This is the son you raised? No manners whatsoever." I strolled over, unhurried. I moved Jaeminho behind me. "My son's language is rough, but he's not wrong." I looked at Shinjae. "Children are here to be taught, not to be yelled at. Your approach does nothing except tear down his confidence. What good is that?" The master looked at me with contempt. "What do you know about art? Has a country bumpkin like you ever even heard a masterwork?" I smiled. "Maybe not. But I know that even the greatest music is played for people to hear. Art that makes people miserable is worthless." With that, I walked to the piano. I rolled up my sleeves. "It's just piano. I can play too." With everyone staring in disbelief, I sat down at the bench. I took a deep breath and reached back to the piece I had practiced obsessively in university, all for the sake of impressing someone. Then my fingers found the keys and played a children's song. I played it with everything I had, bold and full of feeling, and when it ended, the entire room went silent. The piano master's mouth dropped open so wide you could have put an egg in it. Shinjae's eyes went wide, full of admiration. Jaeminho clapped along and sang the tune beside me. I seemed to have played it rather well. I stood up with a casual air and raised an eyebrow at the master. "Was that passionate enough for you?" The master's face cycled between red and white. He pointed at me for a long moment and couldn't say a word. Finally, he flung back his sleeve and said, "Vulgar. An absolute disgrace to the art." He grabbed his bag and stormed out. On his way out, he fired a parting shot. "I'll be reporting everything to Miss Shin. You just wait. Go ahead." Did he think I was scared of him? The moment the master was gone, Shinjae looked at me with pure admiration. "Uncle, that sounded so good." I patted my chest. "Of course it did. Want to learn? I'll teach you." Shinjae beamed. "Yes." And so, for the rest of that afternoon, The grand living room of Cloud Summit Estate rang with the melody of a children's song. Jaminho handled the singing and dancing. I handled the piano. Shinjae handled the clapping. 3 people. That's all it took to be happy. When Shinbing dragged herself home after the meeting, exhausted, what she saw was precisely such a harmonious scene of a loving father and a dutiful son. She stood in the doorway, watching 3 people in the living room, laughing together. 2 kids and 1 grown man, getting along as naturally as could be. She forgot to be angry. Shinjae spotted her first. "Mom, you're back!" He ran over. "Uncle taught me piano today. It was so fun." Hearing this, Shinbing froze. It was the first time she had seen Shinjae smile like that. Her gaze moved past Shinjae and landed on me. The look in her eyes was no longer purely cold. There was something else in it, something searching and uncertain. Was the ice starting to melt? I gave her a smug smile. However, the next second, her phone rang. She answered, listened to a few sentences, and her expression dropped instantly. "What? He drove the master away? And spent the whole afternoon playing children's songs. Fine, I see." She hung up and looked back at me. The faint warmth that had been there a moment ago vanished instantly, back below freezing. "Jaiwoo, you really are something. You flatter me." "Just modest, honestly. Top 3 in the world at most." Shinbing took a deep breath and held back her fury. "Tomorrow, Shinjae's school is holding a parent-child sports day. You're coming with Jaminho." "What? Why would I go? I am his mother. You go as his other guardian." She seemed to find the word father difficult to say. She continued, "Most importantly, stay out of trouble. Don't cause a scene. You know what happens if you do. 1 slap followed by a sweet reward?" No, it was 1 slap followed by a bigger one. Going to a prestigious school for a parent-child sports day. This was throwing a country chicken into a nest of phoenixes for a public execution. I could already picture every awkward moment of tomorrow. The next day, the 4 of us arrived in 2 cars at the legendary Royal Kindergarten. The entrance was lined with luxury vehicles. Every parent was dressed like they were walking a red carpet. The moment Shinbing stepped out, she became the center of every eye, and I walked behind her looking every bit like a man living off his wife. Jaminho and Shinjae walked hand in hand, wide-eyed at everything around them. The sports day started quickly. The first event was pairs, 3 teams total, me and Jaminho as 1 team, Shinbing and Shinjae as another. "Dad, let's go, we're definitely winning first place." I glanced at Shinbing's limited edition sneakers beside me, then at my own last-minute purchase. My confidence wavered slightly. The starting gun fired. I called out our chant and we charged forward. Jaminho and I moved in perfect sync and took the lead. The finish line was right there. Then a father in the adjacent lane lost his footing. He fell straight towards Shinbing and Shinjae. My eyes snapped wide. I shouted, "Watch out!" Almost purely by instinct, I dropped the rope binding my leg and lunged forward. With everything I had, I shoved Shinbing and Shinjae out of the way. They stumbled and landed on the grass beside the track, unhurt, and I was completely flattened under a father who weighed well over 100 kilograms. My back was in agony. I felt like my organs had all changed address. Stars were going off in front of my eyes. The whole field erupted. Teachers and staff rushed over to lift the man off me. "Sir, are you all right?" I lay face down in the grass like a dead dog. It took me a long time to come back to life. Shinbing forgot about appearances and came running over, crouching down beside me. "Jaewoo, how are you? Are you okay?" There was a trace of urgency in her voice that she probably didn't even notice herself. I painfully lifted my head and managed to smile. "I'm fine, still breathing. Just feel like a tank ran over me." Jaminho and Shinjae came running over in tears. Both boys threw their arms around me from either side and sobbed. Looking at them, I felt a warmth spread through me. They really were so sensible. The pain in my back suddenly felt much less serious. It was worth it. I was eventually loaded onto an ambulance as an injured party and driven straight to the hospital. After a full round of examinations, it turned out to be severe soft tissue bruising in my lower back. Fortunately, no bones were broken. I lay in a very important person ward with nothing to do but enjoy the attentive care of a maid. Shinbing finished dealing with the school and came to the hospital. She stood by the bed looking at me with a complicated expression. She said quietly, "Thank you." It was the first time she had ever thanked me with any real sincerity. I grinned and tried to strike a cool pose. It pulled at my back and I winced with pain. I said jokingly, "Miss Shin, a simple thank you isn't going to cut it. This is a workplace injury. Medical bills, lost earnings, emotional distress. I'll leave the amount to you." Shinbing looked at me. The corner of her mouth barely moved, but it moved. "You'll be compensated." She paused. "Today was my fault. I shouldn't have made you go. You wouldn't have gotten hurt." Well, she had learned to apologize. That really was a rare sight. "It's nothing. Minor injury, don't worry about it. I'll call it a life experience." Just then, the door to the ward opened. Jaminho and Shinjae poked their heads in and crept through the door. They were carrying a fruit basket that looked like Shinbing had just bought it. Jaminho set the basket down and ran to the side of my bed, tiptoeing over with care. "Does it still hurt? You're not going to die, are you?" Shinjae bowed his head and said quietly, "Uncle, I'm sorry. It's not your fault." I rubbed both their heads. "Seeing that you're both okay is all I needed. Don't worry about me. I don't hurt at all." Shinjae looked up at me, eyes bright. "Uncle, you were so brave today." Of course he was. My dad is Superman, my hero. Seeing both boys look at me like that, I felt warmth flood through me. Every bit of pain had already flown out the window. Shinbing stood quietly to the side, watching the 3 of us. Her expression was growing softer, far removed from the cold it had been before. The next few days I lived well. No cooking. Meals were delivered. All I had to do was lie still and heal. Shinbing came to see me every day. She didn't say much, but she was no longer covered in thorns the way she used to be. The two boys became my personal little nurses. Jae Minho was in charge of telling jokes. Shinjae was in charge of reading me stories. Life was absolutely blissful lately. One day, I was lying there listening to Shinjae read The Little Prince in his soft little voice, when the ward door suddenly burst open. A man I didn't recognize walked in, suited and polished. Behind him came several journalists carrying cameras. The man strode in and announced loudly, "Ms. Shin, we've heard you gave birth to children in secret, and that you've been hiding the father in a hospital. Is that true?" Camera flashes erupted everywhere. I was completely lost. What was happening? Who are they and what are they doing here? Shinbing's expression shifted instantly. She stepped in front of me and the boys. "Who are you people? Who let you in? Where is security?" The man leading them smiled with obvious cunning. "Miss Shin, no need to get so worked up. We just want to verify a few things. This gentleman here is the father of the children, correct? And are these two boys your twin sons?" His camera swung toward me and Jae Minho. Shinjae was rattled too, pressing himself behind Jae Minho. I understood immediately. These were people sent by a business rival. This was a trap. They wanted to use this scandal to damage Shinbing and her company. Shinbing was trembling with anger. Their actions completely violated her privacy. But to protect the boys, all she could do was keep stepping back. The journalist pressed forward. "Miss Shin, please answer our questions. What is your relationship with this gentleman? When do you plan to publicly acknowledge the children?" They were about to push all the way to the bed. I made up my mind, threw myself out of bed, gritted through the pain in my back, grabbed the water jug from the bedside table, and hurled the water straight at the group of journalists. Then I grabbed Shinbing and both boys and pointed at the window. "Jump, I'll cover you." Everyone in the room was stunned. The journalists yelped from the hot water and instinctively stumbled back. Shinbing looked at me like I had lost my mind. I yanked the bedsheet off and twisted it into a rope while talking. "Jump, it's only the 3rd floor, you'll be fine. Back in the village I've jumped from the 5th floor." That was a lie. The highest I had ever jumped was the 2nd floor, and I sprained my ankle. I tied one end of the sheet to the heating pipe and threw the other end out the window. Then I pushed Shinbing and both boys to the window and urged them to slide down. Shinbing hesitated but looked at the crowd of journalists still pushing forward, and made up her mind. She grabbed Shinjae and helped him slide down. Jae Minho followed right after. Jae Minho was fearless and shot down faster than a monkey. I watched Shinbing, the last one out the window, and let out a breath of relief. Then I turned back to the journalists, who had just regrouped, and gave them my most provocative smile. I grabbed the pillow, the fruit basket, and everything else within reach, and launched it all at them in one go. "Come on then, let me show you what a country boy can do." After creating enough chaos, I grabbed the sheet and leaped out the window. I didn't land cleanly. My backside met the ground again. Back injury plus landing injury. A double hit. Shinbing rushed over to help me up, furious and frantic all at once. "Are you insane?" Her eyes were red. Was she worried about me? I said, "Stop talking, move. Otherwise they'll come chasing after us later." Limping on one leg, supported by Shinbing, I fled the hospital with both boys in a state of complete disorder. Back at Cloud Summit Estate, everyone was still shaken. Shinbing immediately called the PR department to deal with the fallout, and I lay back down in bed. This time I genuinely could not move. Jae Minho and Shinjae stood watch at my bedside, their faces full of worry. "Dad, are you going to die?" I had no words. Truly. Shinbing finished her calls and came to my room. She sent everyone else away. It was just the two of us. "Jae-woo, why did you do what you did today?" I played dumb. "No particular reason, self-defense." "You know that's not what I'm asking." Shinbing walked to the bed and sat down. "You could have left us to deal with it ourselves. Why did you risk yourself to save us?" I looked at her. In the lamplight, all her defenses were down. Her face was tired and uncertain. She was no longer the untouchable ice-cold CEO. Right now, she was just a woman. I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "I didn't do it to save you." Something dimmed in Shinbing's eyes. "I did it for my sons." I looked at her. Jae Minho is my son. Shinjae is my son. They're brothers. I can't stand by and watch either of them get hurt. Then I paused and broke into a grin. "And you're my son's mother." I couldn't exactly stand there and let someone push you around. Shinbing went still. She looked at me for a long time. Then she lowered her head, her shoulders moving slightly. I saw a single tear fall. It landed on the back of her hand resting on her knee. Good grief, she was crying. I panicked. I tried to sit up. "Hey, please don't cry. I was just saying things. I always talk without thinking. You know how I am." I scrambled to comfort her and pulled my back again. "Don't move." She raised her head. Her face was calm again, but her eyes were still faintly red. She reached out and gently pushed the hair back from my forehead. Her fingers were cold, but when they touched my skin, it felt like a current ran through me. My heart sped up. "Jae-woo, the paternity results come back tomorrow." My stomach sank. The thing I had been dreading was finally here. "If the results confirm they're both your sons, what are you going to do?" I opened my mouth and found I had nothing to say. What was I going to do? I didn't know. I had already run once. Giving her Jae Minho was something I could not do. The room fell into a long silence, until Jae Minho's voice came from outside the door. "It's your fault. You got my dad hurt." "Not me, it was those bad people. It was you. It was you." Listening to the two boys argue, Shinbing and I looked at each other and both found the same helpless smile in the other's eyes. Maybe things weren't as bad as they seemed. The next morning I was woken by violent shaking. "Dad, look!" Jae Minho was waving an envelope in front of my face. The test results. My heart dropped to the floor. Judgment Day had arrived. I took the envelope with trembling hands. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Shinbing stood beside me, expression unreadable. Both boys watched me with tense faces. I took a deep breath and tore it open. Inside were several pages dense with technical language. I flipped straight to the last page and read the conclusion. Based on DNA sequence analysis, no biological parent-child relationship exists between the tested individual Jai-woo and the tested individual Jae Minho. What? I looked up with a jolt, not trusting my own eyes. I read it again. Black and white. Crystal clear. No biological relationship between me and Jae Minho. How is that possible? Then I suddenly remembered. When I had cut my finger that day, in the panic, what I had actually dripped in was, I snapped my head toward Shinbing. Had she done something too? Shinbing met my gaze. Her expression was perfectly still. As you wish, Jae-woo. He is not your son. My mind went completely blank. Not my son. Then whose son was he? Before I could think it through, Shinbing produced another document. This one is separate. She handed it over. I looked. It was a paternity test between Shinbing and Jae Minho. The conclusion supported Shinbing as Jae Minho's biological mother. So, what do you have to say for yourself? Shinbing looked at me, her eyes going cold again. You deceived me for 6 years. You kept my son from me for 6 years. Jae-woo. Well played. You're pretty cruel too. I opened my mouth and couldn't say a word. I had deceived her. I looked at Jae Minho, standing there confused, clearly not understanding any of it. Shinjae tugged at Shinbing's sleeve. Mom, what does this mean? Isn't Uncle Jae Minho's dad? Shinbing didn't answer. She walked to me and placed a pre-prepared contract on my bed. Jae-woo, given that we have history and given that you saved us once, I'm giving you one final chance. Here is 10 million. Take the money and disappear from our lives completely. Never appear in front of the children again. 10 million. Double what she had paid me 6 years ago. That kind of money was enough to live lavishly in any city. I looked at the contract. Then I looked at Jae Minho standing beside the bed, completely lost. 6 years of memories played through my mind like a film. The first time he called me dad, his first steps, holding him all night when he was sick, too scared to close my eyes, going to apologize to the neighbors on his behalf when he caused trouble, him sneaking his saved-up candy into my pocket. I had raised him from a helpless newborn into a mischievous boy who could climb trees and raid bird nests. He was my whole world. And now someone wanted to buy my whole world for 10 million. I picked up the contract, and under Shinbing's cold stare tore it apart page by page. The pieces drifted to the floor like snow. Miss Shin, money is a good thing, but there are some things in this world that money cannot buy. 6 years ago I took your money and took him. That was wrong of me. These 6 years, if I haven't given him the finest life, that's on me. But from the very first day to right now, I have always treated him as my own flesh and blood, loving and cherishing him dearly. I taught him to walk, I taught him to talk, I taught him to be honest and to be brave. He is me Jae-woo's son. Blood or no blood, he will always be my son. You want him? Fine. Over my dead body. My words detonated in the room like a bomb. Shinbing's face went instantly white. She had probably never imagined that the money-chasing countryman in her eyes could say something like this. Her lips trembled. She couldn't form a single, complete sentence. Don't die, I don't want you to die. I don't want a mom, I just want my dad, please don't leave me. Jae Minho was sobbing uncontrollably, throwing his arms around my leg. I crouched down and held him tight. My eyes were stinging. You silly boy, how could dad ever not want you? I love you more than words can say. Uncle, Shinjae came over too. He looked at us, then at his mother, his face full of conflict and reluctance. He hesitated, then reached out and gently tugged at my sleeve. Uncle, please don't go. My heart melted. Then from the doorway came a voice I didn't expect at all. Enough. A sharp-looking elderly man stood in the doorway. He walked in with a cane, steadied by a butler. He was Shinbing's father, the chairman of the Shin Group. I had only ever seen him in financial magazines. Dad, why are you here? Shinbing straightened up in surprise. If I waited any longer, there wouldn't be a family left to come back to. Just look at what you're doing. The old man gave a dry snort. His sharp gaze swept the room. Finally it settled on me. You are Jae-woo? Yes. I straightened up. I have seen the test results. He walked to Shinbing. Outrageous. You forged the paternity report? What? I looked sharply at Shinbing, unable to understand why she was doing this. Shinbing went pale and bowed her head. Dad, did you think I didn't know what you were trying to do? You wanted to use a fake report to drive Jae-woo away and keep both children to yourself. That is pure selfishness. Is doing this fair to Jae-woo? The old man took another document from the butler and handed it to me. This is the real report. I took it with trembling hands. The conclusion page stated clearly, biological paternity of Jae Minho confirmed as Jae-woo. Biological paternity of Shinjae confirmed as Jae-woo. My brain felt like it had been taken apart by 10,000 huskies. What was this woman trying to do? I pointed at Shinbing, too furious to speak. First a forged report saying I wasn't Jae Minho's father, then trying to buy me off. Shinbing finally spoke. I was testing you. I needed to know what mattered more to you. The money or the child? 6 years ago you were willing to abandon everything for money. I was afraid you'd do the same again. That's why I did it. I just stood there. So everything that had just happened was a test. I asked not gently, and did you get your answer? Shinbing didn't answer, but her red-rimmed eyes said everything. Her father spoke then. Enough. Let the past go. What matters now is what happens to the children. He looked at me, then at Shinbing. You are both the biological parents of the two children. Neither of you can take that right from the other. My suggestion is that you get married. Give them the complete home they deserve. What? Shinbing and I screamed at exactly the same time. Marry Shinbing? Was he joking? This old man was more confused than I was. Dad, what are you saying? That is absolutely not happening. I immediately agreed. Neither am I. I've gotten used to the freedom of the countryside. I'm not spending the rest of my life staring at a block of ice. Shinbing snapped. Who are you calling a block of ice? I shot back, whoever acts like one, and we were arguing again. Both of you be quiet, the old man said. Do you think I enjoy this? If not for my 2 grandsons, I would not waste a breath on either of you. He pointed at Jaminho and Shinjae. Do you boys want a complete family? Do you want a dad and a mom together? The 2 boys looked at each other, then nodded at exactly the same moment. Jaminho went further. I want dad and mom to be together. Shinjae said softly, me too. We had been sold out by 2 little traitors. Shinbing and I had nothing left to say. Mr. Shin Sr. gave us no opening to argue. It's decided. To give the children a proper standing, and to shut down the media, you will marry. This will be a contractual marriage, of course. You keep separate rooms, you don't interfere with each other. When the children are grown, if you want a divorce, I won't stand in the way. Shinbing and I looked at each other. We both found the same flicker of hesitation in the other's eyes. This was, for now, the only solution, and probably the best one. I'll give you 1 day to think about it, Mr. Shin Sr. said, and walked out with the butler. The room was just the 4 of us again. The atmosphere was deeply awkward. I was the one who finally broke it. I cleared my throat. Miss Shin, what do you think? Shinbing gave me a sideways glance. She was clearly still annoyed about the block of ice comment. She said coldly, for the children's sake, I have no objection. They both want a home. I nodded. Fine. Neither do I. And just like that, our marriage was settled in the most casual way imaginable. 3 days later, we went to the registry office and got our marriage certificate. Holding that red certificate in my hands, I felt like I was dreaming. 6 years ago, I sold myself for money. 6 years later, I sold myself for my son. My life was nothing if not dramatic. To celebrate the formation of our new family, I decided to cook. I politely declined the help of the household chefs. I took over the villa's kitchen by myself. Jaminho came in drooling. Dad, what are you making? My signature dish, clay pot chicken. I took out the big rooster I had raised for half a year back in the countryside, and I began to prepare it. Shinjae and Shinbing had clearly never seen anything like this and both kept their distance. Half an hour later, the smell drifted out of the kitchen. I carried a big steaming pot of clay pot chicken to the table, cornbread baked along the rim. Come on, taste your dad's cooking. Jaminho was the first to grab a piece of cornbread, dipping it in the broth until his whole face was shining with it. This is amazing. This is so good. The food dad makes is the best in the whole wide world. I placed a chicken leg into Shinjae's bowl. Here, you too. Shinjae took a careful bite. His eyes lit up. It's so good. I looked at Shinbing with satisfaction. Miss Shin, do me the honor. Shinbing hesitated. Then she picked up her chopsticks, lifted a small piece of chicken, placed it in her mouth with perfect elegance, and froze. I said, well? She said nothing. She just took another piece. Then another. By the end, she had eaten nearly half the pot. Her mouth said no, but her body said yes. She really was an arrogant woman. After dinner, the 4 of us sat in the living room and watched TV, though it still felt a little strange. Jaminho and Shinjae were squashed against me, chattering away. Shinbing sat on the single sofa nearby with a financial magazine. She was reading it, but her eyes kept drifting over to us. A comedy was playing on the TV. The 3 of us couldn't stop laughing. And laughing along with us, the corner of Shinbing's mouth curled up just slightly, against her will. In that moment, moonlight came through the window and fell across her face. I suddenly thought she looked a little different. This block of ice didn't seem quite so cold anymore. Life after the contractual marriage was full of surprises and unexpected turns. I officially went from a country chicken farmer to the live-in husband of the president of the Shin Group. My main duty, childcare. Shinbing remained a workaholic, out early and home late every day, but she was coming home earlier and earlier. She used to be the last person to leave the office. Now she turned down unnecessary engagements to make it home before dinner, because she knew 3 people were waiting for her at home. I developed my second career, stay-at-home husband. With my cooking, I successfully conquered 3 stomachs, especially Shinbing's. She complained that my food was too greasy, too unhealthy, but she always ate more than anyone else. The 2 boys were growing closer every day. Jaminho became Shinjae's personal bodyguard. At kindergarten, anyone who dared bother Shinjae had Jaminho on them in seconds. Shinjae became Jaminho's personal tutor. Every evening he supervised homework and told bedtime stories. One a hurricane, one a still pond. The 2 of them got along in a way nobody would have predicted. Then came the Shin Group's anniversary gala. As the spouse of the president, I was required to attend. I stood in the crowd in a borrowed designer suit, surrounded by people dressed to perfection. I felt completely out of place, like a husky who had wandered into a flock of swans. Shinbing, on the other hand, looked like royalty in a silver evening gown, radiant beyond words. She took my arm and moved fluidly through the crowd of business titans. This is my husband, Jae Woo. Every time she introduced me like that, I could feel the mixture of envy and resentment from every powerful man in the room. I was quietly delighted. Keep staring. None of you could land this deal. Halfway through the gala, a slick-looking man approached with a glass of wine. It was Director Wang, the rival company executive. who had sent the journalists to the hospital. Miss Shin, it's been too long. You look more stunning than ever. His smile was anything but genuine. And this must be the legendary Mr. J. Quite the reputation, quite the appearance. The sarcasm was impossible to miss. Shinbing's expression went cold. She was about to respond when I got there first, taking her hand. I gave Director Wang my most brilliant smile. Director Wang, the pleasure is mine. I've heard a great deal about you. I hear your company has been having some cash flow difficulties lately. That's business, of course. Win some, lose some, though I wouldn't know personally. I was born lucky, married well, haven't had a worry since. I pulled Shinbing closer by the waist and murmured near her ear. Isn't that right, darling? Shinbing stiffened, but she nodded along. Director Wang flushed with fury. My little speech looked like I was bragging about living off my wife, but it was really a jab at his failing company, with a public display of affection thrown in for good measure. Low damage, maximum humiliation. Director Wang couldn't get a word out. I picked up a glass of champagne and swirled it the way he had. Rather than spending time here mocking other people, you might want to go figure out how to make payroll. Otherwise, when your company folds, you'll be sending your resume to my wife. I took Shinbing's arm and we walked away. Director Wang's furious cursing followed us. Once we reached a quiet corner, Shinbing pulled her hand free. She looked at me with a complicated expression. What has gotten into you? I raised an eyebrow. Just sticking up for you, no thanks required. Shinbing was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, what kind of person are you really? I realized that I don't know you. I smiled. I am just a farmer, the father of your sons. And I am your husband, legally speaking. And what about after? After is for later. I looked out at the brilliant lights of the ballroom and the two small figures in the distance sneaking cake. At least right now, I think life is pretty good. Shinbing followed my gaze. She smiled too. That smile was like the first thaw of ice, like the first warmth of spring. Maybe that's what life is, full of unexpected turns and surprises you never saw coming. Who could have imagined that a reckless deal made 6 years ago would one day produce a home this noisy and this warm? I looked at the woman beside me and the two boys nearby, and felt a steadiness in my chest I had never felt before. Well, living off this woman for the rest of my life didn't seem like such a bad deal after all.